You possess sufficient knowledge to achieve profitability in trading. Your challenge is not intellectual deficiency, but rather the absence of genuine discipline. Until you comprehend what discipline authentically means within the trading context, you will continue to experience frustration and inconsistent results. After decades of working with traders, I have observed a consistent pattern. Failure does not stem from lack of intelligence or inadequate effort, but from a fundamental misunderstanding of the psychological dynamics at play in the markets. Today, I want to address the concept of discipline with you, real discipline. Not the superficial version you believe you possess, not the promises you make to yourself about tomorrow's performance, but the type of discipline that fundamentally distinguishes consistent winners from everyone else. Here is an uncomfortable truth that you must confront. The majority of traders I have mentored already possessed profitable strategies. They had systems with proven track records. They had identifiable edges that could generate consistent returns, yet they still experienced losses. The reason is simple yet profound. Knowing what to do and actually executing that knowledge are entirely different capabilities. The market operates with complete indifference. It does not care about the number of books you have studied. It does not care about your intelligence quotient. It does not care about your financial desperation or how badly you need a winning trade. The market rewards precisely one thing: consistent execution. And consistent execution demands discipline. Consider your own experience honestly. How many times have you violated your own established rules? How many times have you rationalized a decision with "just this once"? How many times have you known exactly what the correct action was but chose the opposite? This is not a deficiency in your strategy or methodology. This is a discipline problem, and no amount of technical analysis, chart study, or market research will resolve it. This reality is particularly difficult for intelligent people to accept. Throughout your life, you have been rewarded for intellectual capability. You have been told repeatedly that hard work produces results. You have been educated to believe that sufficient study guarantees success. But the market does not function according to these principles. The market is indifferent to your effort. It does not acknowledge that you spent the entire night analyzing charts. It does not care that you are desperate for this to work. The market cares about one single thing: did you follow your rules or not? I have witnessed brilliant individuals fail at trading: doctors, engineers, attorneys, professors, people who achieved extraordinary success in every other domain of their lives. Yet they failed in trading because they could not accept uncertainty. They could not accept that being correct in analysis does not always translate to profitability. They could not accept that sometimes you execute perfectly and still experience a loss. Consequently, they continued attempting to control what is fundamentally uncontrollable. They continued trying to be right instead of trying to be consistent. And they lost understanding real discipline. Let me be absolutely clear about something crucial. Discipline in trading is not what most people conceptualize it to be. It is not about forcing yourself through willpower. It is not about determination or trying harder. It is not about gritting your teeth and pushing through. Real discipline in trading means something very specific and measurable. It means executing your rules even when every emotion in your body is demanding that you do something else. It means taking the trade when fear is overwhelming. It means cutting the loss when hope is seductive. It means walking away when you have hit your daily limit, even when you are convinced the next trade will recover everything. It means accepting uncertainty as a fundamental, unchangeable condition of trading. Let me explain what I mean by accepting uncertainty. Every single trade you initiate is uncertain. You do not know whether this particular trade will result in a profit or a loss. You cannot know. Regardless of how sophisticated your analysis is, regardless of how perfect the setup appears, you do not know what will happen next. And if you cannot accept this fundamental truth, you will never achieve discipline, because the need to know, the need to be right, the need to control the outcome will drive you to break your rules repeatedly. You will move your stop loss because you cannot accept being wrong. You will add to a losing position because you are certain it will reverse. You will take profits prematurely because you are afraid of returning gains to the market. All of these behaviors originate from the same psychological source: the inability to accept uncertainty. Discipline means acting consistently across a series of trades, not attempting to make every individual trade a winner, not trying to avoid every loss, but executing the identical process repeatedly regardless of the outcome of any individual trade. That is discipline, and it is the only approach that produces consistent results. The many faces of undisciplined trading. Most traders do not recognize when they are being undisciplined. They believe discipline only applies to following entry rules, but discipline breaks down in numerous ways. Let me describe some of them, and perhaps you will recognize yourself in these patterns. Revenge trading occurs when you experience a loss and immediately re-enter the market to recover your money. You are not following your plan, you are following your emotions. You are attempting to prove something to the market, and the market is completely indifferent to your ego. Increasing position size emotionally happens when you have had several winners and feel invincible, or when you have had several losers and feel desperate. Either way, you increase your risk beyond what your plan permits. This is not confidence. This is lack of discipline. Taking trades outside your plan occurs when the setup is not quite complete, but it feels right, so you take it anyway. And when it loses, you tell yourself it was just unfortunate timing, but it was not bad luck. It was a violation of your rules. Skipping trades when you are afraid happens when your setup appears and your rules say, take the trade, but you are afraid because the last 3 trades lost, so you skip it. And of course, that is the one that would have been a significant winner. This is also lack of discipline. Fear of taking profits manifests when your plan says exit here, but greed compels you to want more. So you hold and the profit transforms into a loss. This happens repeatedly because you cannot follow the exit rule. Holding on to losing trades with hope is perhaps the most common one. Your stop loss is triggered. Your plan says exit, but you do not want to accept the loss. So you hold and hope and pray, and the small loss becomes a catastrophic loss. All of these behaviors share one common element. You know what you are supposed to do, but you do not do it. That is the definition of undisciplined trading. The life trading connection here is something most people do not want to hear, but it is absolutely true. If you lack discipline in your daily life, you will lack discipline in your trading. If you are inconsistent with your habits, you will be inconsistent with your trading. If you quit things when they become difficult, you will quit trading when it becomes difficult. If you take shortcuts in other areas, you will take shortcuts in trading. Trading reflects back to you exactly who you are, not who you wish you were, not who you pretend to be, but who you actually are. Think about your life outside of trading. Do you follow through on commitments? Do you maintain healthy habits even when you do not feel like it? Do you do the work when no one is watching? Or do you make excuses? Do you blame others when things go wrong? Do you look for the easy way out? I am not judging you. I am asking you to be honest with yourself, because the patterns in your life will show up in your trading. If you are impatient in life, you will be impatient in trading. You will exit winners too early. You will enter trades before the setup completes. You will switch strategies before giving them time to work. If you avoid difficult conversations in life, you will avoid difficult decisions in trading. You will not cut losses. You will not admit when you are wrong. You will not face the truth about your performance. The market does not change you, it reveals you. And if you do not like what you see, trading will be painful until you change. Why willpower? Based discipline fails. Now, let me tell you why most attempts at discipline fail. People think discipline is about willpower. They think if they just try harder, they will be able to follow their rules. But willpower always fails. Always. Because willpower is a limited resource. You can force yourself to do something for a while, but eventually willpower depletes. You become tired, stressed, or emotional, and then you take the revenge trade. You move the stop. You violate the plan. And then you feel guilty. You promise yourself you will do better tomorrow. But the same cycle repeats, but not in the way you think. The problem isn't that you're not smart enough, not dedicated enough, or not cut out for trading. The problem is that you've been sold a lie. You've been sold the myth of the brilliant, intuitive trader who sees things others don't. You've been sold the fantasy of constant action and constant profits. And you've been sold the idea that trading is a path to quick freedom, a way to bypass the grind. That lie creates a monster inside you. It creates the version of you that leans into the screen, heart pounding, desperately hoping for a move. It creates the version of you that feels like a genius on a winning streak and a complete fraud on a losing streak. It creates the emotional roller coaster that guarantees you will self-sabotage. The truth is cold, hard, and incredibly liberating. Trading is a business of boredom, not excitement. It is a game of rigorous exclusion, not constant opportunity. It is a test of your ability to do nothing, far more often than your ability to do something. The professional isn't sitting there getting an adrenaline rush. The professional is sitting there, watching paint dry, waiting for one specific, dull pattern to appear on a chart. And when it doesn't appear, their day is a success because they didn't lose. They protected their capital. Their work was the discipline of inaction. The amateur, however, is addicted to the action. A quiet market feels like a personal insult. Nothing is happening, they complain. So they start seeing setups that aren't there. They start bending rules. They take a just for fun trade. They need to feel the buzzes of being in a position. That need, that addiction to action, is what bleeds an account dry over time. It's death by 1,000 tiny, unjustified trades. So let's be brutally honest. When you break your rules, you're not weak. You're feeding an addiction. You're giving in to the craving for certainty in an uncertain world, for action in a world that demands patience. You are choosing the temporary emotional hit of being in the game over the long term, dull, mechanical work of letting the game come to you. This is why structure is non-negotiable. It's not a cage for a wild spirit. It's a sobriety plan for an addict. Your trading plan is your daily meeting. Your predefined rules are your steps. Your journal is your fearless moral inventory. Stop trying to become a fearless trader. You will never be fearless. The goal is to become a trader whose actions are independent of fear. The fear will always be there. The doubt will always whisper. Your job is to have a system so airtight that those feelings have nowhere to land, no lever to pull. The feeling screams, jito-oot, but your stop loss is already set, so you don't need to listen. The feeling whispers, ad mori, tais ast-oni, but your position size is fixed, so the thought is meaningless. The final, uncomfortable truth is this: mastery in trading is not about winning. It's about losing correctly. It's about having a loss that looks exactly like the loss you outlined in your plan, the right size, for the right reason, at the right time. A good loss is a higher sign of skill than a fluky win, when you can take a loss and feel nothing but professional satisfaction that you executed your plan. That is when you know you've crossed the threshold. You are no longer trading for the dopamine. You are trading for the equity curve. And the equity curve doesn't care about your feelings, it only cares about your consistency. So look at your last rule violation. Were you chasing excitement? Were you running from boredom? Were you trying to feel smart? Identify the emotional need you were trying to meet with that trade. Then, build a rule that specifically blocks you from meeting that need through trading. Close the platform. Walk away. The trade is not the therapy. The discipline is. Trading is not for everyone. And sometimes the most disciplined decision you can make is to quit. Not because you're weak. Not because you're a failure. But because you've honestly assessed yourself and recognized that you cannot follow the rules. I've worked with traders who simply could not accept losses. No matter how much they understood intellectually, emotionally, they could not handle being wrong. I've worked with traders who could not stop gambling. They understood probabilities. They understood risk management. But they could not resist the urge to go big. I've worked with traders who needed to be right more than they needed to make money. And no amount of coaching could change that. For these people, trading was not the right path. And recognizing that is not failure. It's wisdom. It's self-awareness. It's discipline of the highest order. Because it takes courage to admit that something isn't for you. It takes courage to walk away from something you've invested time and money into. But sometimes that's the right decision. If you find that you cannot follow your rules, no matter how hard you try, ask yourself this question. Am I trying to make trading fit me, or am I willing to change to fit trading? Because trading requires certain psychological qualities: patience, discipline, emotional detachment, acceptance of uncertainty. If you do not have these qualities and you are not willing to develop them, trading will be painful. It will cost you money. It will cost you emotional energy, and it will never give you what you're looking for. On the other hand, if you recognize your weaknesses and you're willing to do the work to change, trading can be one of the most rewarding endeavors you ever undertake. Not because of the money, but because of who you become in the process. The choice is yours, but make it honestly. Let me tell you what happens when you commit to discipline. When you commit to following your rules no matter what. When you commit to accepting uncertainty. When you commit to thinking in probabilities, you change. Not just as a trader, as a person. Because the qualities that make you a successful trader are the same qualities that make you successful in life. Patience. The ability to wait for the right opportunity instead of forcing things. Calmness. The ability to remain centered even when things are chaotic. Consistency. The ability to do the right thing over and over, even when it's boring. Emotional detachment. The ability to separate yourself worth from your outcomes. The market teaches you these things, but only if you're willing to learn. Only if you're willing to be humbled, only if you're willing to let go of your ego and your need to be right. The market rewards patience, it punishes impatience. The market rewards calmness, it punishes emotional reactions. The market rewards consistency, it punishes randomness. Every day, the market gives you feedback. And if you're paying attention, you'll realize that the feedback is not really about your strategy, it's about you. Are you patient? Are you disciplined? Are you honest with yourself? The market is the ultimate feedback mechanism. It shows you exactly where you are in your development. And if you're willing to accept that feedback without defensiveness, without excuses, you will grow. You will become a better trader, and you will become a better person. Let me bring this all together. Discipline is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. You want consistency. You want to make money over time. You want to feel confident in your trading. The only way to get there is through discipline, not through a better strategy, not through more knowledge, not through harder work, through discipline. Following your rules even when it's hard, accepting losses even when they hurt, staying consistent even when you're bored, protecting your mindset even when you're tempted to keep going. This is the path. There is no shortcut. There is no hack. There is no secret. Just discipline. Day after day. Trade after trade. And here's what most people don't understand. Discipline doesn't feel restrictive. It feels freeing. When you have discipline, you stop worrying. You stop second-guessing. You stop hoping and fearing. You simply execute. And there's a peace in that, a confidence, a freedom. Because you know that as long as you follow your process, you're doing everything you can do. The outcome of any individual trade doesn't matter. What matters is that you executed correctly, and over time, over a series of trades, the probabilities will work in your favor. That's the freedom that discipline gives you, not the freedom to do whatever you want, but the freedom from the anxiety and stress that comes from undisciplined trading. Let me leave you with this. The market does not care about your hopes. It does not care about your fears. It does not care about your dreams or your bills or your ego. The market simply reflects back to you the quality of your decisions, and the quality of your decisions is determined by your discipline. Not occasionally, not when it's convenient, but consistently every single trade. If you take nothing else from what I've shared with you today, remember this. You already know enough to succeed. The question is not what you know. The question is whether you can consistently do what you know, and that is entirely a question of discipline. Trading reveals who you are. It shows you your impatience, your greed, your fear, your need to be right, your inability to accept uncertainty. These things exist in you whether you trade or not, but trading forces you to confront them. And if you're willing to do that work, if you're willing to be honest with yourself, if you're willing to build the discipline required to execute consistently, trading will change your life. Not because of the money, though the money will come, but because of who you become in the process. A person who can remain calm under pressure. A person who can accept what they cannot control. A person who can execute their plan regardless of their emotions. That person is free. Free from the anxiety that plagues most traders. Free from the constant cycle of hope and fear. Free to simply be present with what is and respond appropriately. That's what discipline gives you, and that's what I hope you'll pursue. Not just in trading, but in every area of your life. Because the same principles apply everywhere. Follow your rules. Accept uncertainty. Think in probabilities. Be honest with yourself. And trust the process. Do this and you will succeed. Not because I said so, but because the market rewards discipline. Always has, always will. Thank you for listening, and I hope this helps you on your journey.